It's a war that has lasted on and off for a quarter of a century. Not only on land, but also at sea. And the Tamil Tigers even became the first group of their kind to have an air force. As the years passed, it was a war fought with increasing ferocity. This was the violent anti-Tamil backlash after the Tamil Tigers killed 13 soldiers in an ambush in 1983. What had been a political campaign for a separate Tamil state now took a new direction. The rebel ranks swelled. By 1987, the war had reached a stage where India, with a large Tamil population of its own just across the narrow straits from Sri Lanka, intervened and sent in a peacekeeping force. The LTTE had set up the Black Tigers to carry out suicide attacks against political, economic and military targets, a blueprint for suicide bombings in the Middle East. It also had a special female squad called the Freedom Birds. India's role in the conflict was a disaster and had deadly consequences for Rajiv Gandhi, who was Prime Minister at the time the troops went in. He was killed at an election rally in 1991 by this female Tamil suicide bomber. 2 years later, a suicide bombing claimed the life of Sri Lanka's then President Ranasinghe Premadasa. The Tamil Tigers' ruthlessness, military-style organisation and the level of conviction among their followers was now well established. Their recruits had to be ready to die for the cause and were issued with cyanide capsules to be swallowed if they were captured. The Tamil Tigers' supreme leader, Velupillai Prabhakaran, speaking in 1995.
Our people have lost patience, lost hope and reached the brink of utter frustration. They're not prepared to be tolerant any longer. The new government should come forward soon with a reasonable political framework that will satisfy the political aspirations of the Tamil people. This is our urgent and final appeal. If the new government rejects our urgent appeal, we will next year, in solidarity with our people, intensify our struggle for self-determination.
In a new phase of the war, after Chandrika Kumaratunga became president, she herself was wounded in a bomb attack. And in 2001, the Tamil Tigers carried out perhaps their most audacious operation of all. This suicide attack on Colombo Airport destroyed half the Sri Lankan Airlines fleet. The rebels were effectively running a shadow state in the north of the island nation, with its own police force, courts, civil administration, bank and radio and television stations. And now, after nearly 20 years of conflict, came an important turning point. A ceasefire agreement mediated by Norway after the LTTE had dropped its demand for a separate state in favour of regional autonomy. Now, too, a split in the LTTE's own ranks, led by this man going by the nom de guerre of Colonel Karuna. Once a bodyguard of Velupillai Prabhakaran, he led a revolt in the east of the island, charging that cadres from the region were not adequately represented in the Tamil Tigers hierarchy. After the ceasefire between the LTTE and the government finally broke down, the way was paved for the government offensive that saw the fall of the Tamil Tigers' de facto administrative capital, Kilinochchi, in January this year. The rebels were soon fighting to hold on to an ever-shrinking amount of territory, but they still staged an air attack on Colombo, this plane plunging into an inland revenue office. Many thousands of Tamil civilians were trapped in the last battleground, though in time more and more made their way across the front lines to crowded displacement camps. No humanitarian crisis, it seemed, was going to thwart the government's intention of finishing off the Tamil Tigers once and for all. But the question is whether they really have left the battlefield forever. Mike Wooldridge, BBC News.